Joseph, the 11th son. Born to Jacob and Rachel, Joseph is loved by his dad amongst his sons and made him a coat of many colors. This gained him the hatred of his brethren. Joseph had the first dream in which he saw 11 chiefs of his brethren bow down to his in the field. His brethren, understanding the meaning of the dream, hated him the more. Later, he had a second dream in which he saw the sun, moon, and 11 stars bow down to him. This time, even his dad rebuked him, saying, "Shall your mother, brethren, and I bow down before thee?" His brethren envied him, but his father kept this saying in his heart. One day, as his brethren went out to feed the flock in Shechem, Jacob their father sent him to go find out about their well-being and bring back word to him. Joseph set out for Shechem in search of his brothers, but was told they went on to Dothan. So he went after them and found them in Dothan. But his brothers, upon seeing him from afar, said to themselves, "Behold, here comes the dreamer. Come down therefore, let us slay him and cast him in some pit, and we will say some evil beast killed him, and we will see what will become of his dreams." Reuben, the eldest son, heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, "Let us not kill him." Reuben said to his brothers, "Let us not shed no blood, but throw him into this pit that is in the desert, and lay no hand upon him, for he thought he could deliver him and bring him back to his father again later." So they took Joseph and stripped him out of his coat of many colors, and threw him into an empty pit with no water in it. Then they sat down to eat bread, and it came to pass that while they were eating, they lifted up their eyes and saw a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, and going down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brethren, "What will it profit us if we kill our brother and hide his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. Let not our hand be on him, for he is our brother in flesh." And his brethren agreed with him. So they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and Joseph was brought down to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was no longer there, he tore his clothes in despair. Returning to his brethren, he said, "The child is no more. Where shall I go?" So they killed a kid amongst the goats and dipped Joseph's coat in his blood, and brought back and sent the coat to their father, saying, "We don't know if it's that of thy son." Jacob recognized the coat of many colors of his son Joseph, and said, "Surely some evil beast hath devoured him, Joseph my son." And he tore his clothes and mourned his son for many days. All his sons and daughters couldn't comfort him, for he said, "I will go down into the grave with my son's mourning." Joseph was brought to Egypt, where Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's guard, bought him from the hand of the Ishmaelites. The Lord was with Joseph and made prosperous everything his hand touched. When the master of the household saw that, he made him overseer over his whole house and all that he had. The Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. It came to pass after all these things that Potiphar's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Come lie with me." But Joseph refused, saying he couldn't sin against his God. So when she observed that he hearkened not unto her day-by-day plea, she came up with a plan. She caught him by his garment one day as he came upon the house to do his business, saying, "Come lie with me." But Joseph left his garment in her hand and fled out. Seeing what had happened, she called unto the men of the house, saying, "The Hebrew they brought here has tried to rape me," crying with a loud voice and showing the garment as a proof. The master of the house, upon his return and hearing this, was furious and threw Joseph into prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The prison keeper committed into Joseph's hand all the prisoners, and the prison also prospered due to the presence of Joseph. When you are favored by God and on the line of duty, you are a blessing to your entourage. During his jail time, 2 prisoners were brought to the same ward. It was the butler and baker of the king. One night, they both dreamed dreams, and each told his dream to Joseph, who then gave to each the interpretation of his dream, which occurred exactly as he had said on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday. The baker was hung as Joseph had predicted, but the butler was restored to his functions. However, he forgot Joseph once back in the palace. 2 years later, Pharaoh had 2 dreams which kept him worried and sleepless, and none of his chief magicians could interpret his dream without him, Pharaoh, narrating the dream. The butler then remembered Joseph, who interpreted his dream in prison and talked about him to Pharaoh. So Joseph was sent for. Joseph narrated the 2 dreams and gave the interpretation, and Pharaoh was marveled by the Spirit of God in him. So it was none other wiser to give him the leadership of all the kingdom except the throne. Pharaoh's dream announced 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. Joseph was in charge of storing food during the 7 years of abundance to sell later during the 7 years of famine. Joseph thus became the second highest personality in the kingdom of Egypt, from grace to grace, from slavery to the throne. God's promise was in operation. When the famine was in full swing, Joseph's brothers came down to Egypt to buy some food. There Joseph revealed himself to his brethren, who were afraid.
I am Joseph. Joseph. It is my brother Joseph. Yes, it is I. But be at peace.
Finally, Joseph's father, Jacob, upon hearing that his son was still alive, also came down to Egypt, and God's promise came to pass as they all bowed before him. We see in Joseph's life a life of sanctification and perseverance as he held on to the promise of God through his dreams, wavering not to the right or to the left, and refusing to defile himself, but keeping his eyes turned to God his Lord. In return, the Lord blessed him wherever he went.